The Senate will please come to order. Please join me in a moment of silence today in lieu of a devotional. Thank you. Are there any announcements? Seeing none, hearing none, we have Senate bills for introduction. S-129, an act relating to the management of fish and wildlife, introduced by Senator Campion. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
S-129, an act relating to the management of fish and wildlife.
You heard the first reading, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Natural Resources and Energy. S-130, an act relating to employment protection for volunteer emergency responders, introduced by Senators Terenzini and others. Please listen to the first reading of the bill.
S-130, an act relating to employment protection for volunteer emergency responders.
You've heard the first reading, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs. We have House bills for reference. H-313, an act relating to miscellaneous amendments to alcoholic beverage laws, introduced in the House on February 23rd, 2021. Please listen to the first reading.
H-313, an act relating to miscellaneous amendments to alcoholic beverage laws.
You've heard the first reading, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs. H-431, an act relating to miscellaneous energy subjects, introduced in the House on March 16, 2021. Please listen to the first reading.
H-431, an act relating to miscellaneous energy subjects.
You've heard the first reading, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Finance. This brings us to the orders of the day. There's been a request to again move over S10, so without objection, we'll now move over S10. There's further been a request to move over S100, and without objection, we'll move over S100. The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I request that we pass over S100 to a date certain, April 1st.
The senator from Windham has moved that S100 be taken up on a date certain, April 1st. We will now move to S48.
Good vote.
We will need a vote. The senator from Windham has moved that S100 be taken up on a date certain, April 1st. Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please unmute and also signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've moved over S100 to be taken up on April 1st. We'll now move to S48. We have on the calendar for action S48, which was introduced on January 27th. It was referred to the Committee on Health and Welfare, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as appears on pages 881 to 883 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. The bill was then referred to the Committee on Finance, which reports that the bill be amended as recommended by the Committee on Health and Welfare, and when so amended, the bill ought to pass. And finally, the bill was then referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which also reports that the bill be amended as recommended by the Committee on Health and Welfare, and when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of S48.
S48, an act relating to Vermont's adoption of the Interstate Nurse Licensure Compact.
The senator from Addison, Senator Hardy, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Health and Welfare.
Thank you, Madam President. May I speak to the underlying bill and the amendment?
Without objection, you may.
Thank you, Madam President. Senators, you have been emailed the original bill by the Secretary, and the amendment can be found on today's calendar on page 881, and I'll address the amendment at the end of my report. As the name implies, S48 would enter Vermont into a multi-state nurse licensure compact as amended by the National Council of State Boards of Nursing. As is a well-known issue here in Vermont and actually across the country, and one that we speak about frequently in the Committee on Health and Welfare, we have a nurse shortage here in Vermont. Prior to the pandemic, a report was done that showed that we need at least 5,000 more nurses to cover all of the positions that are open in our state. And that is likely become even worse because of the effects of the pandemic. This nurse licensure compact would not solve this problem, but it would help ease the problem in some ways by using a tool in our toolbox to help people who are entering the profession of nursing. It would allow nurses to have the professional flexibility of moving across state lines to practice. And a report from the Office of Professional Regulation showed that new nurses entering the field and nurses in nursing school were heavily in favor of our state entering this compact because of this professional flexibility. So it's a tool that we can use to help support nurses entering the field. There are currently 34 states in the Nurse Compact, including our sister states in Northern New England, Maine, and New Hampshire. And by entering the compact, Vermont agrees to the multi-state terms of licensure for registered nurses, or RNs, and licensed practical nurses, LPNs. And by enacting this into law, Vermont would essentially be entering into a contract with the other states that are party to this compact. This is very similar to the Physicians Compact that some senators may remember from 2018, which is now Act 115, that provided a similar compact for physicians licensed in Vermont. It also should be noted that this bill that we're talking about, the underlying bill, is the same bill as S125 that was passed last year by this body on a voice vote at the end of May. The bill codifies the Nurse Licensure Compact into Title 26 of our statutes, which are the professions and occupations title of our statutes. And it contains three main provisions. I will now go over the sections of the bill. There are only two sections of the bill. The first section that has all of the various parts of the compact, and then the second section, which is the effective date. So I will start with section 1. And that section 1647 of Title 26 adopts the Nurse Licensure Compact as amended by the National Council of State Boards of Nursing, and it creates the form and format and the text of the compact within our state laws. Section 1647A is the findings and declaration of purpose. This section expands the mobility of nurses and the use of advanced communication technologies as part of our nation's healthcare delivery system require greater coordination and cooperation among states in the areas of nurse licensure and regulation. The general purpose of the compact is to provide opportunities for interstate practice by nurses who meet uniform licensure requirements and promote compliance with the laws governing the practice of nursing in each jurisdiction. For Vermont, this would allow nurses who have compact licenses in a sister state to practice here without needing an additional license. The next section, section 1647B, is the definition sections, which I won't go through every definition. 1647C, the following section, is the general provisions and jurisdiction. And this outlines the provisions of that compact. The compact multi-state license authorizes a nurse to practice in each state that is party to the compact. A state must implement procedures for considering the criminal history records of applicants for initial multi-state license or licensure by endorsement. A nurse must meet the compact requirements in order to obtain a compact multi-state license. Each compact state may discipline a nurse's license in that state. A nurse is required to comply with a compact state's laws governing the practice of nursing when providing care to a client in that compact state. Nurses residing in a compact state will still be able to apply for a single state Vermont license. Any nurse holding a home state multi-state license on the effective date of this compact may retain and renew that multi-state license. For Vermont, this means that the Vermont Board of Nursing will start to issue compact multi-state licenses. Vermont will allow compact licenses from other states to practice in Vermont. And Vermont will retain jurisdiction over all nursing practice in Vermont. Operationally, Vermont will also begin to conduct criminal background checks on all licensed nurses as required under the compact. Section 1647D talks about the application for licensure in a party state. Upon application for a multi-state license, Vermont would use the Coordinated Licensure Information System to determine the status of an applicant's licensure in another state. This is basically a database of all the nurses licensed under the compact. A nurse may hold a multi-state license issued by the home state in only one state at a time. A nurse's home state means the nurse's primary state of residence, and that primary state of residence must be a compact state. If a nurse changes primary state of residence by moving between party states, the nurse must apply for licensure in the new home state, and the multi-state license issued by the prior home state will be deactivated. If a nurse changes primary state of residence by moving from a party state to a non-party state, the multi-state license issued by the prior home state will convert to a single state license. So this is particularly helpful along our border, especially the New Hampshire border, which is party to this compact, because nurses on either side of the border will be able to practice in each other's states without obtaining two licenses. If they live in Vermont, they would have a home state license in Vermont and could practice in New Hampshire, and vice versa for New Hampshire. It should be noted that Massachusetts and New York are also considering legislation similar to S48, and also that Canada is not part of the compact because, as you know, Canada is not a state. So it wouldn't help up there. So the next section is section 1647E, and this outlines some additional authority invested in each party state licensing board. The party state has authority to take adverse action against a nurse's multi-state licensure privilege, conduct investigations and hearings, obtain fingerprints and other biometric-based information from the FBI for criminal background checks, deactivate a nurse's multi-state license, and determine that participation in an alternative program may be used in lieu of adverse action. This would actually expand Vermont's licensing board authority because it provides that a party state can investigate and issue subpoenas for issues that did not arise in Vermont. Section 1647F is about the Coordinated Licensure Information System. This section requires that all parties of the compact participate in the coordinated licensure system of all RNs and LPNs. And this talks about the provisions. It would include information on the licensure and disciplinary history of each nurse, assist in the coordination of nurse licensure and enforcement efforts. Information in the system would also include any adverse actions, significant investigation information, denials of applications, and other information that might be necessary to determine the status of a nurse's license. Section 1647G is about the Commission of the Nurse Licensure Compact Administrators Establishment. The compact is a joint public entity known as the Interstate Commission of Nurse Licensure Compact Administrators, and it lays out the membership and voting powers of this commission. And in this section, each party state shall have one and only one administrator that serves on the commission and is entitled to one vote. The commission, by a majority vote of the administrators, prescribes bylaws or rules to govern its conduct and may be necessary to carry out the purposes and exercise the powers of the compact. And the list of the powers are outlined in sections G1 in the bill. And in Vermont, the executive director of the Vermont Board of Nursing will serve as Vermont's administrator for the compact. And this position is a state employee and is supervised by the director of the Office of Professional Regulation. The next section 1647H, outlines rulemaking authority by the commission. And the next section, 1647I, outlines that oversight and dispute resolution regarding actions that the commission and party states can take for the default of performance under the obligations of the compact. And then 1647J, the next is about when the compact effective date and withdrawal and amendment of the compact. A state may withdraw from the compact by repealing this enabling legislation. If the legislation becomes law, the way we get out of the compact is to repeal it. And it must, but that wouldn't take effect until 6 months after the repeal. And we would have to comply with the terms of the compact during that time. Then there's a clause in 1647K about construction and severability of the contract. The next section is section 1648, and this is the amended section. So you can look on page 881 for the amendments that your Health and Welfare Committee made to this section. And this is the one section of the compact of this bill that's allowed to be amended, because it's the section about the provisions of Vermont's role in the licensure compact. It establishes that the State Board of Nursing is able to establish fees to offset the costs associated with the compact, conduct background checks as part of the licensure, adopt rules as necessary to implement the compact, and to take disciplinary action against a nurse practicing in Vermont under the compact. This also states that the executive director of the Board of Nursing is the administrator. The amendment that your Health and Welfare Committee made replaces a section of it and adds a requirement that the executive director of the Vermont Board of Nursing notify the Commissioner of Finance and Management if the compact commission proposes to pledge the credit of the state of Vermont or otherwise impose liability on the state for an amount equal to or in excess of $100,000. The compact does allow the commission to incur debt, and your Health and Welfare Committee was concerned that this might lead to the state of Vermont incurring debt because of this. This has not happened in the history of the compact, but we just wanted to ensure that the state of Vermont's finances were protected. And so we put in this notification so that there would be some oversight of this should this happen. So that is the amendment. The witnesses, we heard from a number of witnesses while we were considering the bill, including the Director of State Advocacy and Legislative Affairs from the National Council of State Boards of Nursing, the Director of the Office of Professional Regulation, the lobbyist for the Vermont Healthcare Association, the executive director of the American Nursing Association of Vermont, the president of the Vermont Federation of Nurses and Health Professions, the chair of the Board of Nursing, and of course, our own legislative counsel and joint fiscal office. Madam Chair, the committee vote to approve S48 as amended was 5-0-0, and we ask this body to concur. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you. The senator from Addison is further recognized for a report of the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Madam President. The Committee on Finance considered S48 and the fiscal impact on the state's revenues. There are approximately 4,705 Vermont licenses for nurses from out of state. So these are out of state nurses who hold a Vermont license. Under the provisions of S48, these nurses would no longer be required to get a Vermont license and therefore no longer required to pay the license fee for a license in Vermont. And so there would therefore be a fiscal impact or a revenue impact on licensing fees. However, because the compact does not take effect until February of 2022, there would not be an impact in this following fiscal year. And then the licensures for these nurses are every other year. RNs and LPNs rotate years in which they are licensed. So the fiscal impact for FY23 is approximately $800,000 to $900,000 in fees, and then FY24 $90,000 to $100,000. So maximum of potentially $1 million in fee revenue loss because of entering into the compact. This is fees that are paid to the Board of Nursing in the Office of Professional Regulations, and it should be noted that OPR is strongly in favor of S48 despite this fee revenue, and that they have said that they would make every attempt necessary to absorb this, either with adjusting Vermont licensure fees or reducing administrative costs. There is also an annual fee to participate in the Nurse Compact licensure, but it's only $6,000, and OPR was confident that that could be absorbed in their budget. And finally, there are some technical costs related to the tech for entering into the database, and that too could be paid for by a grant. Although I realize I'm just going into appropriations. Sorry about that. But this is the fee revenue is the Finance Committee, and we considered that and still thought that it was we wanted to follow the recommendation of the Health and Welfare Committee and voted 7-0-0 in support of S48 as amended. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. And with that, we'll move to the Senator from Essex, Orleans, Senator Starr, for a report of the Committee on Appropriations.
Yes, Madam President, thank you. I want to thank the member from Middlebury, Addison County, for giving the approach report on the bill. But we did review S48. Found that OPR could handle a lot of the overage and or loss of expenditures, and that it could possibly have a positive effect on Vermont by having adequate nursing available to take care of our citizens. And as the bill is amended by Health and Welfare, we would support the bill on a vote of 7-0-0. And we did hear from the folks in Finance as well as Health and Welfare. Thank you.
Thank you. The question is, shall the Senate amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Health and Welfare? Are you ready for the question? So kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've amended the bill as recommended by the Committee on Health and Welfare. The question now is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? please unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of S48. The senator from Wyndham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I would like to take up H81.
Without objection, we will move ahead to H81. We have on the calendar for action H81, read for the first time on February 19, 2021. It was referred to the Committee on Education, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill ought to pass. The bill was then referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which also reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of H81.
H81, an act relating to statewide public school employee health benefits.
The senator from Washington, Senator Perchlik, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Education.
Thank you, Madam President. My report from the Education Committee is on House Bill 81 as passed. The Education Committee passed it without any amendments. So first, some background on H81. In 2018, during a special session, the legislature created a new statewide collective bargaining process for determining the healthcare benefits for all of the public school employees. This was Act 11. This Act 11 created a commission on public school employee health benefits, and it was comprised of 10 members, 5 from basically the employers and 5 from the employees, that being the school boards and the 2 largest labor unions representing school employees. The first round of public school healthcare bargaining began in the spring of 2019, ended at the end of that year in December, and both parties were generally satisfied with the process, but they did have some suggested changes to make it better. They came to your Education Committee last year, and we passed S226. It was one of the very last bills that we passed when we were still in the chamber last year. That bill passed unanimously out of the Education Committee, out of Appropriations, and on a voice vote on the floor. But because of COVID, that did not go anywhere in the House. So this year, the House basically took our bill S226 and created H81 and made some modest adjustments than what we passed. And basically, the overall of this bill is that it makes modest changes to the collective bargaining process based on feedback from both the employers and the employees that were participated in the 2019 healthcare bargaining. So with that background, I'll give you this section by section of the 7 sections. Section 1 amends the definition of school employee. That's to include all the permanent employees of a school districts and supervisory unions, except for individuals who serve as the role of superintendent. This was on request of the superintendents to take them out. They negotiate their health care benefits directly with the school boards that hire them. The definition under current law inadvertently omitted some certain school employees at a certain level, kind of in the managerial level, like a business manager or food service director. So this change makes clear that they are part of the definition of school employee for this healthcare bargaining. Section 2 clarifies and addresses some of the technical issues with the composition, structure, and process of the commission. It allows commission members to be removed by their appointing authorities without cause before they needed to have cause to be removed. It provides per diem and compensation for the commission members up to 20 meetings before it was only 10 meetings. It requires school districts to grant commission members time off. So this basically teachers or employers that are members of the commission need to go to a commission meeting as part of the negotiation. They don't have to take their vacation time. They're required to get time off to attend the meetings. That permits the commission membership to include up to 4 alternate members. That wasn't in the original statute, and there was some confusion about how to deal with alternates. This section also requires the Agency of Education to include in its annual budget a request for appropriation for the per diem compensation of the commission members. And so that this year in section 3, that's the appropriation for fiscal year 22 is appropriated $35,000. In the future, it'll be part of AOE's budget as in section 2. Section 4 is kind of not a big deal, but a critical part of the bill. And this allows the healthcare bargaining to include in their negotiation the premium responsibilities and out-of-pocket expenses to be different among different tiers of employees. If the bill didn't pass, then the premiums and out-of-pocket, like copays, would have to be the same for all employees, regardless of how much they get paid. So a paraeducator that makes $17,000 a year would have to pay the same out-of-pocket costs as a licensed teacher that makes $35,000 or $70,000. And this doesn't require that they pay the same. It just allows it to be part of the negotiation, and it was part of the negotiation in 2019 and has been part of school board and school employee negotiations for decades. This just keeps that going. If the bill didn't pass, it would revert to requiring it all to be the same. We're still in section 4. It adds a provision that allows the commission to negotiate a statewide grievance procedure for any disputes that may arise. Again, it doesn't create that. It just allows that to be negotiated if they so choose. It adds a provision that prohibits a school employee or a household from double dipping to get health care benefits and cash in lieu benefits from a school. So if they work for 2 schools, or if 2 spouses, one took the health care benefits and one took cash in lieu, this would make clear that that's not allowed and would prohibit it. It allows a provision that allows school employers to work out how to provide health benefits to school employees that do work part-time for more than one school. Section 5 adds language about data requests made by the commission to school districts. This includes timelines for the responses to the commission. And this is critical for the commission to be able to do its work and have the bargaining process proceed, that they're able to gather this information from the schools in a timely manner. Section 5A, this is one of 2 sections that has a different effective date. The 5A and soon 6A, which is just 5A conforming language, will take effect in January 1 of 2022. So after this current round of negotiations. So negotiations under current law will start on April 1st. They will, whether this bill passes or not, it starts on April 1st and will finish by the end of the year. So this section 5A will only take place after this round, so for the next round. And it deals with how arbitrators are decided on. If the parties don't come to an agreement, then this section allows that the Vermont Labor Relations Board be an option for how to arbitrate their disagreements. It also allows them to form a 3-member arbitration panel, which is similar to the way it is now, but the way the 3 are chosen would be a little different in this section 5A. Section 6 clarifies the process for making the last best offers to the arbitrator. So if there isn't a negotiated settlement between the 2 parties and they go to an arbitrator, this clarifies how those last best offers are to be made. It requires commission members to submit to the arbitrator cost estimates for those last best offers, their proposals. And it requires the arbitrator to issue a written decision providing a full explanation of the basis for the decision. Surprising to many, the arbitrator in the 2019 process wrote a decision that was only a couple sentences long. It just said, I'm choosing this side because it was the closest to the statute. People felt that was quite lacking, and it really didn't allow much understanding on how the decision was made. So this language requires that a full explanation of why the arbitrator or the panel chose which side they end up choosing. 6A is this conforming language on allowing the Vermont Labor Relations Board to be an option for arbitration. Conforming to 5A, this is the other section that has an effective date of January 1st, 2022. That brings us to the final section, section 7, which is effective dates, which the bill will take effect on passage, except those sections 5A and 6A about the arbitration, which will take effect in 22 to basically impact the next round of negotiations. Your Senate Education Committee heard witnesses from the following witnesses. We heard from Representative Tommy Walls, which is the House reporter on the bill, James Damaris, Legislative Counsel, Joyce Manchester from Joint Fiscal Office, Laura Soares from the Vermont Education Health Initiative, Sue Siglowski, Vermont School Boards Association, Neil Odell from the Vermont School Boards Association, Jay Nichols, Vermont Principals Association, Jeff Fannin, Vermont National Education Association, Susan Dreimeyer from the Vermont National Education Association, Joseph McNeil, who was the chief negotiator for the employers on the commission last round, Bridget Burkhart from the South Burlington School Board, Jim Salzgiver from the Bennington-Rutland Supervisory Union Board, and Julie Filiberti who's a paraeducator from Fairfax, Vermont. The committee's vote on the bill was 5-0-1, and we ask for your support. And that ends my report. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Senator. The senator from Windham, Senator Ballin, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Appropriations.
Thank you, Madam President. Your Committee on Appropriations has reviewed H81, and we find that the impact on the budget is de minimis.
Thank you. The question is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Franklin is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. May I interrogate the reporter of the underlying bill?
You may.
I wonder if the reporter can tell us what this is going to cost.
Senator Conley, there we go.
It depends on the question for me to answer needs to be clarified a little bit. I mean, we heard from appropriation that the cost de minimis for the compensation for the commission members. I assume that's not what the question is. I mean, that's $35,000. That's
no. The question is, Madam President, what the cost to the schools and to the education fund might be from whatever is anticipated to negotiate to be the negotiated result of approving this bill.
Madam President, it's kind of an unknown number because we don't know what they're negotiating. It's going to be negotiated, and then they will present that to the, if they can negotiate, if they don't come up with a final negotiation, then they will present that to the arbitration panel or the NLRB, and they will decide on that. Part of their decision will be the cost. There's language in the underlying statute that says that the financial, one of the things they have to consider, the arbitrators, on deciding which healthcare benefit plan to go with, is the financial ability of the education fund and school districts across the state to pay for the cost of healthcare benefits and coverage. But there's no way to know today what the cost will be, just as we don't know what the cost of healthcare will be for anybody, really.
Well, did the committee seek a fiscal note of any kind from the Joint Fiscal Office to at least advise of the range of numbers that are likely to result, since the number of employees involved is not insignificant, so the cost clearly isn't free?
Yes, Madam President, the cost, just as it is today, there is a cost to provide health care. And we did get a fiscal note from the Joint Fiscal Office that kind of went through the different options. But it was an interesting fiscal note in that they don't have a specific thing to go from, but they did try to give us some range of saying, well, if the negotiated settlement offers better health care, then people might use more health care, and so therefore the cost of that health care might be more. But it's really an unknown on what the cost for health care will be. Even if you had a projection of saying, okay, what if we gave everybody free health care? So they're going to use more health care, and so that'll have more cost. Well, what's the cost benefit of that? Maybe if they're using more health care, they'll be healthier and then have less more chronic care, which is more expensive. So it's just like our efforts to try to figure out what the costs of healthcare are going to be in any sector that the state deals with. It's just kind of an unknown. And this bill doesn't try to solve our healthcare costs problem. It's a problem. This bill is about how they negotiate for those benefits, not how we as a state try to rein in our healthcare.
Well, I would assume that the assumption here is, though, that by passing this, we have an easier pathway to more robust healthcare that matches the kind of healthcare that others who are education employees would be getting. And I'm just wondering, in the fiscal note, didn't they put any numbers in?
My first point I want to say is that these are benefits that they're getting now, so it's not additional benefits. But we're not adding anybody to the healthcare benefits that they're getting now. And this was the whole idea around the statewide thing was to not have individual negotiations over these exact same benefits, but to do it statewide. So we're not really changing anything there. The fiscal note I do not have in front of me. The numbers that were in there, I'd have to get back to the Senator from Franklin on before third reading or at third reading.
Thank you. Well, based upon your participation in these discussions and understanding the rationale for introducing this bill, would you expect the cost to go up or go down?
I have no expectations either way, because it's like trying to predict what the weather will be next winter. I do not know if it's going to be snowy or not.
Okay. In terms of this kind of change, do you think it has any potential implications to expanding the number of folks who are covered by our pension programs? Are these folks covered by pension?
There's two questions there. Are they covered by pensions? Yes. I think most of them, if not all of them, are part of the pension program for teachers and school employees, but I could get back to you on third reading if I'm saying that wrong, if there are some school employees that are not. And I do not see it as changing one way or the other, whether there'd be more people participating in the pensions or not.
Okay. Thank you, Madam President.
The senator from Chittenden, Senator Baruth, is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. After that last exchange, I just want to remind people why the system was put in place. It was promoted over a number of years, most notably by the governor, as a cost-saving measure. Instead of negotiating in each separate district with all of the attendant costs in all of those local districts, the idea was to have one negotiation and save money to the education fund in that way. Ultimately, we did pass a version of that, and the governor, I think, promoted it as something that would help to rein in costs. I still believe that that's the case in terms of the actual negotiating cost. So I think my colleague from Franklin's questions are more directed at who wins the negotiations, which we have no way of knowing before they happen, but also with the ever-rising cost of healthcare in America. And that's something that this body has tried to grapple with in other ways. But a reminder, and I think the reporter was clear on this, this is meant to be something that can help us get a handle on the negotiating costs, and then elsewhere we would look to rein in healthcare and pension costs. Thank you, Madam President.
Question is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Essex Orleans, Senator Ingalls, is recognized.
Madam President, could I interrogate the presenter of the bill, please?
You may.
Madam President, was it ever in discussion in the committee to maybe possibly put this off to a later time? Looking at the crisis that we have with almost $6 billion in healthcare and pension funds, was there ever discussion with the committee that maybe we should look at this next year when things were clearer and we were able to solve the problems of these pension funds?
No, Madam President, because the underlying statute would still exist. So the negotiations are happening April 1st, whether this bill passes or not. We've already, Act 11 already created this commission in statewide healthcare bargaining. So this bill just makes some clarifications and slight improvements to that bill. So we didn't talk about waiting to make those changes.
Thank you, Madam President.
The question is, shall the bill be read the third time? Are you ready for the question? So kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
No.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you've ordered third reading of H81. The senator from Windham is recognized.
Madam President, at this time, I ask that we take up for third reading S13.
The senator from Windham has moved that we move to S13. Without objection, we will. We have on the calendar for third reading S13. Third reading was ordered on March 24th, 2021. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
S13, an act relating to the implementation of the pupil weighting factors report.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed S13, excuse me. We have on the calendar for third reading S25. Third reading was ordered on March 24th, 2021. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
S25, an act relating to miscellaneous cannabis regulation procedures.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? So please unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you've passed S25. We have on the calendar for third reading S102. Third reading was ordered on March 24th, 2021. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
S102, an act relating to the regulation of agricultural inputs for farmers.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? Kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed S102. We have on the calendar for third reading S124. Third reading was also ordered on March 24th, 2021. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
S124, an act relating to miscellaneous utility subjects.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? So please unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've passed S124. The senator from Windham is recognized.
Madam President, at this time, I'd like to take up S33.
The senator from Windham has moved that we move to S33. Without objection, we will.
It's my fault. I skipped it. I'm sorry. It's you. That's my fault. I missed it. Oh, it's not there.
third reading. Okay. Excuse me.
Madam President?
Yep.
I believe it was an oversight. It was between S25 and S102.
Yes, just one moment. Thank you. We have on the calendar for third reading S33. Third reading was ordered on March 24th, 2021. Are there any amendments before third reading? Please listen to the third reading of the bill.
S33, an act relating to project-based tax increment financing districts.
The question is, shall the bill pass? Are you ready for the question? So please unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you've passed S33. The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. At this time, I'd like to take up S79 for second reading.
We have on the calendar for action S79, introduced on February 12th. It was referred to the Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the bill be amended as appears on pages 883 to 900 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. The bill was then referred to the Committee on Finance, which reports that the bill be amended as recommended by the Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs. And when so amended, the bill ought to pass. And finally, the bill was then referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which reports that the recommendation of amendment of the Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs Committee be amended as set forth on pages 901 to 902 of today's calendar, and that when so amended, the bill ought to pass. Please listen to the second reading of S79.
S79, an act relating to improving rental housing, health, and safety.
The senator from Windsor, Senator Clarkson, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Health and Welfare.
Thank you, Madam President. As our president has noted, you can find this bill on today's calendar on page 883. S79 is a consumer protection bill designed to protect Vermont renters and landlords by ensuring they have healthy and safe housing and by rehabilitating affordable rental units. This bill proposes 3 initiatives that have been in discussion for years, since 2010. The Senate passed these measures 2 years ago. These recommendations come from a well-vetted study done by the Rental Housing Advisory Board, which the legislature approved several years ago. S79 first moves the responsibility for the enforcement of the state rental housing health code from the outdated system of volunteer town health officers in municipalities to the Division of Fire Safety. Second, it establishes a registry of long and short-term rental housing units with a fee to support housing safety. And last, it establishes the Vermont Housing Investment Program to provide resources to property owners to bring non-compliant, vacant, and blighted housing online quickly. So why do we need this bill? Vermont has about 80,000 rental units, of which the Vermont Housing and Finance Agency estimates 4,000 are vacant and 7,000 are substandard with serious health and safety problems, such as incomplete kitchen and bathroom facilities, faulty wiring, or no heat. We want residents of rental housing, often our lowest income, most vulnerable residents, to have safe, healthy, and code-compliant apartments. Currently, over 21,000 rental units in Vermont are covered by professional municipal programs that charge property owners a fee for a periodic inspection. 6 cities have their own inspection systems. 4 have rental registries, and that would include Burlington, St. Johnsbury, Barrie, and Winooski. And 2 have inspection systems, Brattleboro and St. Albans. Their work is made possible by having a comprehensive grand list which identifies every rental unit. However, about 55,000 apartments and about 4,000 short-term rentals do not have equitable access to professional inspections. These are inspected by town health officers, THOs, with little training or expertise in buildings. In most towns, they're volunteers or receive nominal compensation. We ask them to go unassisted into private homes where they may encounter a range of challenges: mental health, drug addiction, complicated family circumstances, violence, squalor, and filth. And COVID has added an additional layer of difficulty to all that. Increasingly, towns are having a hard time finding people to serve as THOs. Towns with current programs will continue them and can into the future. Those with the inability to set up a program would welcome the relief from rental complaints. THOs would remain in place to support the Division of Fire Safety and carry out the other duties not related to the inspection of rental housing. We need equitable, consistent, and fair rental housing health code inspections. We need to level the playing field for all rental property owners and for tenants. This will continue to be a complaint-driven inspection system. This bill is a priority for the Vermont League of Cities and Towns. They helped craft this legislation, as did the Division of Fire Safety, the Department of Health, and the Vermont Landlords Association. Sections 1 through 7 address moving the responsibility of the state rental housing health codes from the Department of Health to the Division of Fire Safety and creates the rental registry. The Department of Health has professional staff for the inspection of all lodging, public homes, and institutions. The Division of Fire Safety has professional staff responsible for fire and building code inspections in all public buildings and rentals. However, the Rental Housing Health Code, which covers the most basic but often the most troubling habitability codes, are left to municipalities. Towns must respond to complaints around all sanitation issues, working kitchens and bathrooms, trash, heating and ventilation, lighting, access to water, and weather-tight structures, vermin and pests, and basic life safety. Nothing in S79 changes the codes. What we want to change is who enforces them. There is a significant overlap in rental housing health codes already with the Division of Fire Safety. They could take this on if we provide 5 new full-time positions, full-time inspectors, plus overhead support. This will provide consistent and professional health and safety inspections statewide. This will continue again to be a complaint-driven system which benefits landlords and tenants and which we hope will further ensure rental housing health and safety for Vermonters. Why do we need to create a rental registry? Well, first, the rental registry will help save the state money. Currently, a feasibility study is required to receive public funding. Since 2016, we've had to pay 26 feasibility studies for 26 affordable housing projects, just in order to be eligible to receive community development block grant funds. Tens of thousands of dollars are spent each year to collect aggregated market information that we could provide for free through the rental registry. That money could instead be spent on more affordable housing. To plan for future housing, we need to know where current housing is located. A registry at the Department of Housing and Community Development would allow for better information about where best to spend public dollars to address our housing needs. And most importantly, we need to be able to communicate with landlords about changes in the law. For example, the hardwiring of carbon monoxide detectors, any change. About rental opportunities. In COVID, we had this incredible rental assistance, which was not taken up by even half of the landlords. Resources, grants, and weatherization, or other special federal and state programs. We also need to find out about the huge number of short-term rental businesses in the state. Where are they? Vermont Housing Finance Agency estimates that about 25% of long-term and short-term rentals overlap. There are no other short-term rental rules proposed in this bill. The Vermont Chamber and ACCD are very interested in better understanding all this data. Currently, most of this information is available in 4 places publicly: in each town's grand list, E911, the Department of Health's lead paint prevention registry, and at the tax department's landlord certificate program. What doesn't exist is a systemic way to use the data for the benefit of landlords or the state. The goal is to consolidate the information we have into one database of residential rental units and the property owners from information that's already available in some form to the public. The registry will be housed at the Department of Housing and Community Development. The registry will not be public. DHCD would not release information except for what DHCD needs to carry out its functions. To pay for the needed code inspections, we need to establish a rental registry fee of $35. A business user fee paid by the owner seems to be the fairest way rather than all taxpayers. It's done in 6 of our towns already, and it's done all over the country. I would remind you that rental housing is big business in Vermont, generating more than $900 million in revenue. Renting out real estate, both short-term and long-term, is a business. That's why it's treated differently in property tax and income tax codes. That's why you often get tax deductibility and incentives different than your private home. In addition to the needed revenue source to meet our obligations to enforce codes and ensure rental housing safety for our residents, there's been the need for comprehensive rental housing data for decades. This bill creates 1.5 full-time positions to manage and maintain the registry and to conduct the outreach to landlords. Sections 8 and 9 create the Vermont Housing Investment Program, fondly known as VHIP. This program is designed to improve existing housing stock. This is low-hanging fruit. 2 truths, sadly, continue to challenge the Vermont rental housing market. First, the need for about 5,000 new housing units a year. And second, that Vermont has some of the oldest housing stock in the country. About 80% of Vermont's rental housing units are more than 30 years old, and about 47% of these are more than 80 years old. Approximately 83% of Vermont's rental housing stock is owned by private landlords. A significant percent of our rental housing, as mentioned, about 11,000 units, are substandard or vacant. They're blighted, non-code compliant, or in need of weatherization, and as a result, are underutilized. We need these units to come back online. We have a housing crisis. VHIP's goal is to bring some of these unused properties back into productive use by providing grants of up to $30,000 to incent private landlords to invest in a 20% match to renew these housing units. In Senate Economic Development, we've experienced that often that small incentives are catalysts for big change and mobilize action. VHIP is a very cost-effective way to get more housing online and encourage property owners to do repairs. And we now have the 2020 pilot enabled by the $7.6 million of coronavirus relief funds to provide a model. DHCD, in partnership with Vermont's 5 nonprofit homeownership centers, implemented a very successful rental rehab program, something housing advocates have asked for years. We heard from DHCD and several homeownership centers about their experience. Since September, they worked with 93 landlords to fix up 250 units with an average grant amount of $24,220 a unit. The landlords had a 10% match requirement, but many matched the funds by 20% or more. In contrast, the cost of new, perpetually affordable rental units is approximately $300,000. So we get a big bang for our buck here. This has allowed DHCD to learn, and they've included these components in this proposal. VHIP will provide grants or forgivable loans up to $30,000 for rental housing rehabilitation, and the requirements are as follows. They need to be vacant and blighted units. They can be new accessory unit. They can create new accessory units. Units that are at risk of being lost for structural or code non-compliant issues or in need of weatherization. It requires a 20% landlord match and has affordability requirements. And those, I would remind you, are to rent at or below the area's fair market rent rate calculated annually by the Department of Housing and Urban Development. The landlord can choose to rent either for 5 years at affordable rates and give priority to Vermonters exiting homelessness, or they can rent for 10 years at affordable rates. Senate Economic Development is asking to fund VHIP with a $3 million one-time fund, with $3 million of one-time funds to continue this much-needed work. VHIP is in the governor's budget and is enthusiastically supported by your Senate Economic Development Committee. It brings refurbished, weatherized, code-compliant housing back into use for a fraction of the cost of a new affordable housing unit. Section 10 addresses how we pay for this. As I've mentioned, well, I haven't mentioned this one, but it's a one-time investment of $400,000 to get this program up and going, to design and build the rental registry and to set up the program in fire safety and provide for the transition from town health officers. A fee of $35 a unit is established, and would be collected from property owners not already participating in a municipal registry. This yearly charge per unit will support the personnel to run the program. 5 additional inspectors at fire safety and 1.5 at the Department of Housing and Community Development. The fees for the registry support the operations beginning January of 2022 and will continue to support both the registry and the rental housing health and safety programs well into the future. The conservative projections have been made for the launch of this program, and with outreach, we expect participation to grow steadily over the years. The bill also appropriates $3 million of one-time money for the VHIP program. And as you'll hear from Appropriations and Finance on these proposals. Senate Economic Development heard from 16 witnesses, and our committee vote was 5-0. We heard from town health officers, the Rental House Advisory Board, home ownership centers, the several different ones, the director of the Division of Fire Safety, the housing program administrator of the Department of Housing and Community Development, our legislative council, the Department of Housing and Community Development's commissioner, the director of public policy and advocacy for the Vermont League of Cities and Towns, the rental rehab coordinator, public health policy advisor for the Department of Health, the multi-family rental improvement coordinator at the Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust, the director of operations for Neighbor Works of Western Vermont, the coordinator of Vermont Affordable Housing Coalition, the president of Vermont Inn and Bed and Breakfast Association, the executive director of Rural Edge, and the director of Vermont Apartment Owners Association, the Landlord Association. The committee vote was 5-0, and we ask for your support because We believe this creates equity in inspections and code enforcements for our rental housing statewide and helps bring online vacant and blighted housing units around the state. And we passed this 2 years ago, and we hope that all of you will support this important work again. Thank you.
Thank you. The senator from Chittenden, Senator Sirotkin, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Finance. The senator, kindly unmute.
Thank you, Madam President. And as the reporter has just said, we passed this bill 2 years ago at the same fee, which is the one section we looked at in Section 3 of the bill of $35 per unit. The budget has not changed. A comprehensive budget was put together by the Rehab Board, and we heard from ACCD on their budget, and the committee vote was 7-0 to concur with the Senate Economic Development Committee.
The senator from Windham, Senator Ballant, is recognized for the report of the Committee on Appropriations.
Thank you, Madam President. Your Committee on Appropriations has considered S79 and has recommended the following changes. In the first instance, Department of Housing and Community Development will maintain the registration fees collected in a special fund entitled the Rental Housing Safety Special Fund. The funds will be used to hire authorized staff to administer the registry and the registration requirements and provide funding to the Department of Public Safety to hire staff to conduct inspections and regulate rental housing pursuant to 20 VSA Chapter 173. In the second instance of amendment, we are striking out sections 4 through 5 and adding a new section 4, which authorizes DPS to create 5 full-time classified inspector positions in order to conduct rental housing, health, and safety inspections. In fiscal year 2022, $200,000 is appropriated from the general fund to DPS for a one-time startup fund to hire 1 or more inspector positions. The department may hire additional inspectors as more funds become available. It also adds a new section 5 dealing with the Department of Housing and Community Development. DHCD is authorized to create 1 full-time position and 1 half-time classified position to administer and enforce the registry requirements. In fiscal year 2022, the amount of $200,000 is appropriated to from the general fund to DHCD, again as one-time startup funding. The department may hire additional staff as the funds become available. The third instance of amendment strips out the VHIP language from the underlying bill due to the size of the appropriation requested, which was $3 million. The committee vote was 5-0, Madam President.
Thank you. The first question is, shall the report of the Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs be amended as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations? Are you ready for the question? So please unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've amended the report as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations. The next question is, shall the Senate amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs as amended? Are you ready for the question? The senator from Windham is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm sorry, I may have missed this somewhere. And I do think that having the professional inspectors do this instead of town health officers is a very good move. I may have missed this in the inventory. Are all Section 8 housing, public housing units, the units that are owned by the housing trusts, and then special housing programs such as Shelter Plus Care, are they also required to be part of the registry and pay the $35 per unit, even though they all have their own inspection systems?
Senator, are you asking to inquire?
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. May I inquire of the reporter of the bill? Thank you.
Without objection, you may.
I don't think I need to repeat my question.
No, you may.
Okay, I will.
No, thank you, Madam President. I heard it. I believe the senator is asking if all public housing, Section 8 housing, has to pay, even though they have their own inspection system. My understanding is that any apartment unit that has its own inspection system is not part of the inspection charge and wouldn't have to pay that fee. And yes, I believe every rental unit in the state would be included in the registry.
So, thank you, Madam President. So the public housing units would be listed in the registry, and the Section 8 units would be listed in the registry, but they would not pay the, for example, there are Section 8 rental units in Brattleboro, and they have their own inspection program, so they're out. But there are also Section 8 housing units in Putney, and we don't have an inspection system. Would those Section 8, those landlords who rent to Section 8 tenants have to register and pay the fee?
I believe Putney's would have to, yes, because this is for complaints. This is complaint driven, and they are not part of the Brattleboro inspection system. But anything in Brattleboro would be covered by their inspection system and the fee they pay.
Even though Section 8 has its own inspection program, whether you're in Brattleboro or not.
If they have their own inspection program, I don't believe they would pay this fee, but I can get back to you with a definitive answer on third reading. But
Thank you.
But Putney, Putney, yes, but the other ones I would have to get back to you on.
Thank you, Madam President. And I realize that Putney does not have one, but I know that Section 8 administrators regularly every year inspect their rental units.
The question is, shall the Senate amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs as amended? The senator from Franklin is recognized.
Thank you, Madam President. As a general rule, when I see legislation that poses both additional burdens and additional fees on Vermonters, I'm very, very hesitant to support it. In this case, I supported this bill because I'm concerned that at times we seem to be moving toward two Vermonts. There's a Vermont in this particular case that deals with municipalities like Burlington and Rutland and others that inspect property for the protection of the tenants who are occupying that property, who inspect on the basis of life safety and livability. And there are places in Vermont in which we have a voluntary system that in many places simply isn't working. In my experience responding to constituents who have complaints, I've seen substandard housing at its absolute worst, where there's flowing sewage, where there are broken appliances, where there is wiring that is unsafe, and where there are fire hazards that are uncorrected. I've also seen situations in which town health officers either, although they exist, don't inspect and are ineffective. And I think it's important that every Vermonter who is occupying a rental property do so on a level playing field that at least provides some assurance that what's being occupied is safe. I know being a landlord is tough. At one point I had 14 apartments and thank God I've gotten rid of all of them. So I'm not a landlord anymore. But I pity those who are, and I realize the burdens that they have. But I think this is a very small burden to bear when we're talking about the life and safety of the people in Vermont who are occupying these properties. Thank you, Madam President.
The question is, shall the Senate amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs as amended? Are you ready for the question? So kindly unmute. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Nay.
The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and you've amended the bill as recommended by the Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs as amended. The senator from Windsor, Senator Clarkson, is recognized for her amendment.
Thank you, Madam President. We had additional work to do on this bill, and we have it in the amendment in front of you. We're proposing to amend sections 9 and 9A.
Senators are...
Madam President, if Senator Starr could be muted.
We have muted Mr. Senator Starr.
Thank you.
With respect.
Okay, I'll start again. So we're amending this. We took some additional testimony and are presenting this amendment that's in front of you. We're amending sections 9 and 9A, and they're very brief. We're amending the bill to articulate and clarify that the grants in VHIP will be competitive, and that the Department of Housing and Community Development will develop statewide standards for the program, including factors that partner organizations will use to evaluate applications. We've added language that the awards process is subject to a housing organization's exercise of discretion based on the factors adopted by DHCD, and that the identity of recipients and the amount of a grant are public record, and DHCD will publish this information at least monthly on its website. And then it further clarifies that a state's lien for a forgivable loan will be subordinate to a lien or the first mortgage already in existence. And lastly, we add a report back that by next January 15th, the Department of Housing and Community Development will give us a report concerning the design, implementation, and the outcomes of the Vermont Housing Investment Program, including findings and any recommendations that related to the amount of grant awards. Thank you. Oh, and that vote was 5-0, and we'd ask for your support.
Madam President, I request a short recess.
We will take a brief recess.